Hello, my name is David Lepofsky. I'm the chair of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Alliance. I'd like to spend some time with you giving you some practical suggestions if you're a parent or a guardian of a student with a disability in the school system between kindergarten and grade 12 or about to enter that school system here in Ontario, or frankly anywhere in Canada, about practical strategies you might want to try out to ensure that your child is fully included and fully benefits from the programming, the education that's offered in your school system. Now, to begin, I just want to explain, I'm not giving legal advice today. If you need legal advice, and I hope you never do, but if you need legal advice, you should talk to a lawyer. In Ontario, we're very fortunate that there is a community legal clinic called the Arch Disability Law Center, and they have a phone advice service that is free and that may be able to help you. You can always call them at 416-482-8255, and you can also reach them through the internet at www.archdisabilitylaw.ca. But what I'd like to talk to you about today is practical suggestions. Well, what's your goal? To begin with, it's worth setting down at the outset and figuring out, what am I going to try to achieve? And of course, that one's an easy one. You want to make sure that your child can get as good an education as possible and as full as an education as possible, as appropriate and an education tailored to your child's needs as you can. I'm talking to you regardless of what kind of disability your child has. It may be a physical disability, a mental disability, a learning disability, a sensory disability, a mental health condition. Could be a combination of them. You might not be sure which disability or disabilities your child has. I'm talking regardless of those kinds of specifics to all of you. Well, to achieve your goal, it's really important at the start to have a sense of what the challenge is out there that parents face in dealing with the school system. The school system, I believe, is made up of teachers, principals, and others who want to ensure that they can teach every child and want every child to benefit. But they work in a system that's got some limits and in some ways put some handcuffs on them. Not out of some nasty intention, but that intention doesn't matter. The problem that we have is that our school system, like much in our society, is designed largely to serve people, in the case of the schools, kids without disabilities. That's sort of their model. It's not because somebody sat down and decided to conspire against kids with disabilities, but the practical result is that the buildings where kids go to school and the equipment and the gyms, the playgrounds and otherwise, and the curriculum and the teacher training and the programs and even the technology they acquire is largely designed or acquired on the assumption that it's for students without disabilities. So when a student with a disability encounters that system, they find that they've got a school system that's full of barriers that can get in their way. And what parents need to do, and guardians when they're advocating for their child, is to find ways to ensure that that school system overcomes those barriers, gets those barriers out of the way, and enables their child to get a full, complete education and can fully benefit from all that our education system has to offer. And it's important to remember from the start that the teachers and the principals that you meet up with along the way want to do the best for your child, but they too live in that same school system that's full of the same barriers. They didn't invent them. At times they can't single-handedly fix them, but working with you and with your family and with the supports you organize, you can find ways to overcome those barriers and enable your child to succeed. Let me give you some practical tips for the rest of this talk about how to do that. It would be better if our provincial government had put in place effective measures to ensure that these barriers didn't exist. But historically, they hadn't. And so we have to face the world that is full of these barriers in our school system. So where do you start? The starting point that you want to consider is figuring out what your child's needs are, what the barriers are that they face, and what specific actions you'd like the school board or the school or the teacher to take to ensure that your child's learning needs are fully met. Well, I'm not going to here give you a list of what those needs are. They're going to depend on your child, but you need to spend some time figuring this out, speaking to the school board about it, and doing your own outreach. The more that you can help deliver the answer to the question, what does your child need, to the school board, the more quickly and the more effectively we have a chance of ensuring that they meet those needs. So what do? I invite you to consider building a team around yourself to help you with this. You can't do it alone. You'll know some of it just from your experience as a parent or guardian of the child, but you can't do it alone, and you'll need some help. Who do you turn to? Lots of possible resources, and the more proactive you are in finding them, the more effective you'll be. You can turn to the healthcare professionals that work with your child's pediatrician, and any other professionals that have been working with you before your child goes to school or while your child is at school to help support your child's needs. They can help you both with giving you a diagnosis if there's one needed, and with giving you suggestions of areas where there are needs, and from their experience, any ideas of what may help your child succeed in school. There are disability organizations in the community you can turn to. There's an entire United Nations of disability organizations. If your child has more than one disability, you may be approaching more than one of them. You need to reach out to them, find out who within their organization works and specializes in the needs of children and youth with the disability or disabilities you're dealing with, and get their input and advice. There are either formal or informal organizations of parents of children with different disabilities. You can find them through the internet. You may find them on Facebook. Some will have Facebook chat groups and other ways that you can reach out to parents in situations like yours. Whether it's in Canada or indeed somewhere else around the world, it's worth reaching out to them and learning from them. If they've already gone through the process you have in the school system, they can have practical suggestions that can help you. You may want to add to your circle of supports other people who can just give you personal support. Maybe other family members or close friends, but who can help you think this all through. And collectively, you want to be in a position to go to the school board and say, here's what we think our child's needs are, and here's some ideas we have of what might be effective at meeting those needs. Now, that's not to say that the entire discussion is one that you have outside the school system. You want to be prepared before you go to the school, but then have an opportunity to embark in discussions with the school system, because on learning what you have to suggest to them, they may have helpful information they can share with you, and you want to be open to that. More about that as my presentation continues. Well, once you've taken that preliminary effort at building that circle of support around you and coming up with your understanding what your child's needs are and what kinds of things you might want to ask the school board for, do you go and start making requests? And my answer is not yet. There are two more things you need to investigate and try to find out before you're ready to start embarking on discussions. And the first is you want to find out what kinds of supports, what kinds of options, what kinds of services are available through your school and your school board for students with disabilities like your child's and needs like your child's. And the second thing you want to learn is how you navigate that school system, who you ask for what, who can explain things to you. If you're not happy, where do you go to further your efforts at advocating for your child? Well, you'd think both of those things should be easy to find out, but they're not necessarily easy to find out. Some school boards make it easy to find out what's on the menu. For some school boards, I would describe them as like a restaurant that won't give you a menu. And it can be very hard. It may not be clear on their website, or it may be buried layers down, or it may be set out in documents that are tens or hundreds of pages long that you're not going to want to spend your time sifting through. And even if you did, you may find them really hard to understand and figure out because they're in technical school board language. But you need to investigate by talking to your principal, talking to your teacher, talking to others involved in the school to learn what options are available, what different classes, what different kinds of placements, what kinds of professional services, what kind of activity or strategies has the school board got, or specialized resources that might be helpful to you. And you want to find out from them how you navigate the system. And when you talk to them about how to navigate the system, you want to find out two things. One is technically what's the ladder, who report, first you talk to the principal, teacher, then maybe the vice principal, then maybe the principal, maybe somebody higher up on the board. That may be the formal structure they tell you about. But the other thing you want to ask about is who really makes the decisions? Because there's the formal structure, and then there's the practical, how it really works. And you want to ask about these things before you start coming forward with your requests, so you have a bit of a sense of how to navigate the system. Well, before I dive into what you do next in terms of very specific practical things, let me offer an overarching theme. For parents of a student with a disability in the school system, you are, from day one until the day your child completes their education, you are their advocate. You are there to advocate to ensure that the best is provided for your child. And pretty much everything I'm going to talk about now is derives from that and is focused on what makes a person an effective advocate. Indeed, figuring out what you want, which is what I've talked about right now, and how the system is set up and what's available, those are really the first effective steps of any kind of advocacy. But what we know from experience in schools and school boards all over the place, inside Canada, outside Canada, is the more effective the parent is at advocacy, the better chances the child with a student with a disability has of succeeding in getting the best they can from the education system. But with that, how do we begin our actual advocacy efforts? Once we have a sense of what we want, what do we do? Well, the first step in presenting your, in advancing your advocacy efforts, once you have a sense of what you want and what the needs are, is to put your request forward. And it's often a really good idea to do that in writing, in an email or in a letter, which is addressed to the teacher and the principal. And it may be also, you may also ask them who else you should send a copy of it to. You don't want to copy it to everybody all the way up the whole school board at this point, and hopefully you never have to. But just setting out the specifics of what you understand your child's disability is, or disabilities are, and what you believe the needs are, and what you would like to ask the school board to provide for your child. It's helpful in that kind of an email or letter to spell it out in terms that makes it clear that you are flexible and open to have conversations with the school board and want to work together with them, because that enables the school board to get the message that you want to be a constructive partner in this effort. Now you might think to yourself, well, why do I have to set all this stuff out anyway? Why aren't they figuring this out? Now, of course, in a perfect world, they would be figuring this all out. But in the world where we live, principals, teachers, school board staff are overloaded, overworked, and trying to handle the needs of a lot of kids. And to the extent that you can make it easier for them to meet your child's needs, you got a better chance of them of their meeting your child's needs. To the extent that you come forward with constructive suggestions or information, that makes it easier so that they don't have to try to figure that stuff out themselves. Now, does that mean that they're always going to listen to you? Well, of course not, but your chances are much better. Let me give you just a quick practical tip that will carry forward from when you write this email or letter all the way onward through your activities. I strongly encourage you to convey the message that I want to work with you folks, and we are eager to collaborate on this. If a principal or a teacher or a school board official feels that a parent is being combative or demanding, or is simply saying it's my way or the highway from day one, you don't want to be typecast like that, because then you might face more resistance later on. Now, I'm not saying you should compromise on your child's needs, but there's ways to present your message in a way that is more likely to make it well received. Again, as I said before, remember who you're writing for. You're writing for folks who want to ensure that your child's needs are met, may not know much about the particular disability in question, and are overloaded with lots else going on in just trying to keep things going. I'm recording this video during the COVID crisis, and you can imagine that principals and teachers right now are scrambling and are under enormous stress. So this practical tip I'm giving you is even more important now than ever. Why put it in writing early on? Well, I think it's helpful to do that because you want to make it clear what you're asking for. You want to make sure that everybody understands it, that it's not a matter of just talking to a teacher at the end of the day in a busy hallway in school, or where they may have be in the middle of discussions of other things, may not remember it correctly, whatever. By putting it in writing, you're helping make sure it's clear what you want. You're also helping make sure, even if you tell the teacher that the principal knows, or if you tell the principal that the teacher knows. And the other thing is, later on, if there are difficulties encountered along the way, you want to be able to make it clear what it was you asked for from day one. And a well-written email doesn't have to be long, but is one which can make that much easier to achieve. Well, what's the next step? You put it in writing. What's the next step? Well, the next step is to approach the school and ask for an opportunity to discuss it. Now, I am going to now introduce for you a term that you may have heard or may not have heard, and about which people have some degree of confusion. The term is an individual education plan, or IEP. You are going to want to invite the school to have an IEP meeting with you. What is that? Well, let me begin by talking about what an IEP is. In practical terms, think of it as what is putting in writing in a plan, what's the school board going to be doing for my child to address their needs by virtue of the fact that they have this disability. It may be the programming they're going to offer. It may be the specific goals or added curriculum. It may be added services they're going to provide. It may be added assistance for your child in the classroom. Whatever it's going to be, think of it as the plan for overcoming those barriers in the system that your child faces because the system was designed principally for kids without disabilities. Now, do they have to give you an IEP? Well, I'm not going to dive into the complicated legal situation of Ontario's special education regulations. Let's just say that any child who has a disability certainly can ask for an individual education plan. And whether or not it fits within the technical terms of our special education regulations, I hope that a thoughtful and supportive teacher and principal would be open to doing that. And in fact, they may have turned their mind to it before you even came along and asked. They may come to you and ask you about what they might include in an IEP. Under Ontario's special education regulations, individual education plans are to be provided to students who have disabilities that our regulations call an exceptionality. Let's just say that that does include all disabilities. Unfortunately, it's kind of out of date, and some of us have been advocating to get these out-of-date laws improved. But don't, as a practical matter, don't let that get in your way. You can talk to the Arch Disability Law Center if you need any help navigating those technical things. But just, if you've got a child who's got a disability that can affect their learning and success at school, just ask for them, tell the school you'd like an individual education plan and you'd like to work with them on developing it. Now, the activities the school may, and efforts they take to assist your child, they may write out in the individual education plan or they may not write out in it, but your best bet is to try to get as much of it as possible included in that individual education plan. One thing we know that individual education plans are supposed to do, aside from everything else I've said, is particularly if your child has got to go through some kind of important transition, the transition from elementary school to secondary school, the transition from secondary school out of the school system, there's supposed to be transition planning included in the individual education plan. Under our regulations, the school board is required to consult with you as the family on the development of the individual education plan. Now, unfortunately, in Ontario, some school boards just do that by sending you a letter asking your thoughts, and then later sending home the individual education plan with perhaps with a request saying, please sign and return. But what I want to suggest to you as a practical tip that a number of parents have found to be quite helpful is to ask the school instead for a meeting. Say, before you write this thing, we'd like to sit down and have a meeting to talk about what will be in the individual education plan and what the school board plans to do to meet the needs of our child. Now, I use the term IEP meeting. Some school boards may look at you and go, well, we give the meeting a different name or we have a different terminology. I don't care what it's called. You want to have a meeting. Let's talk about that meeting, whatever we call it. Well, first, who do you want to have there? From the school board, you want to ask that the teacher be there, principal be there, any special education consultant on the school board's side that's involved be there, and any other professionals or school staff that they have that can assist in discussing plans for your child. And from your perspective, you should be there if it's during COVID or if you can't get there in person because of work. We now know that they can have virtual meetings, so why not use the technology now available, Zoom or the other technology for a virtual meeting. But you can also have any support people that you want to bring that can help you. That might be a friend, it might be a spouse, it might be other professionals that you've gotten help with, or people who have helped other families of children with disabilities navigate the system. The goal of the meeting would be to try to work out a plan, that's with a small p, for your child that is best going to meet their needs. And that could include having that plan written up in a formal document called the individual education plan. I think that your goal is to get them to actually do these things for your child. If they'll put it in writing, that makes it even better. But I think it's important not to let the formal document become a distraction Uh, it should be a liberating tool that helps you succeed. And so, A, you want to make sure that they're agreeing to take the steps for your child that you want. And B, you want, if at all possible, to get it included in the actual plan. And some schools or some school boards may have an experience of just simply writing an IEP and sending it home. But if you could get them to plan to sit down and talk to you and discuss what they're thinking of before that, and maybe share ideas, and you can offer your ideas, then there's a chance to improve it and make it as helpful for your child as possible. To that end, you might find that you will table ideas that the school board thinks are great and they're going to pick up on it, or they may offer ideas you didn't think of and you think are great. But there's the possibility, of course, that you may suggest something and they look at you and they're not sure that you need it, or that they want to include it. What do you do then? Well, that's what a face-to-face meeting or a virtual meeting can be a very helpful way to try to resolve it. So what do you do? Well, a few practical tips if you want to be an effective advocate is to first find out from them what their concerns are, what their objection is. We'd like you to do X. You've said you don't want to, or you don't think you should. Can you tell me why? And ask them to give you their reasons. And it's worthwhile to take notes while this is going on, so you don't have to rely on your memory, or to have a friend at your meeting taking notes for you, so you don't have to be distracted by the note-taking process. But as well, it's very helpful to ask the school folks who would they need to get permission from or authority from to be able to provide X for your child, because they might in their hearts actually think you got a good idea, but it might not be their decision. So they might initially just say no because they can't authorize it. So it's important to then know who to go to and ask them. And you may want to follow up with a couple of suggestions. If you're not sure if X is a good idea, could we try it out? Let's do a trial period with it. Let's do it, see if it works. The other thing, if they need somebody else's authority, a higher up within the board, you might say, well, can we just have you contact that higher authority, and maybe we could have a meeting with them or bring them to our next meeting and see if we can make some progress that way. Now, I've mentioned that if someone at the school board says no to you about something you're asking for, whether at one of these meetings or in any of your dealings, you should ask for their reasons. It's really important to ask them to put those reasons in writing. You might even have to email them just saying, can I asked for X and you said you can't do it. You told me the reasons were so-and-so, or could you please just set out your reasons why you aren't agreeing to do this. It's really important to get those reasons confirmed in writing so there's no dispute later over why they weren't agreeable to what you were asking for. Now, let's hope that they will be agreeable, but let's say you put something forward and they're not agreeable, or there's some reluctance. I encourage you, whether you're at an IEP meeting or in any discussions at any level in the school board, to encourage the school board official you're dealing with, whether the principal or someone higher up, to investigate the issue. They've got a duty to investigate solutions when there's a possible impasse. And of course, you could be helpful and give them suggestions of where to look. Are there other people at your school board who may have dealt with this? Are there community agencies with experience in this that we could try to draw upon, that you might speak to? You might even give them suggestions of who they should speak to. And as well, if there are examples of people who've been able to get the very accommodation you're seeking somewhere else in that school board or in another school board, it would be really helpful to connect your principal or the other school board officials with those people, with either the parents or the school officials at the other school where it's been done. So let me give you an example. There have been issues raised in Ontario in the past for some schools where a child with autism has a trained and qualified service dog and wants to bring them to school, which can be very beneficial for the student. in helping them self-regulate and be calm and so on at school. Now, some schools and school boards have been very open to this and have allowed it. Some have put up a big fuss. And if you're proposing, a parent is proposing this as a measure you want to try, and if there's some reluctance at the point from the board, it's important to get the reasons so you can address them, the reasons for their reluctance. But it's also helpful to try to connect them with a school or a family or a principal somewhere else at that same school board or another school where they have allowed a student with a service dog to come to school, and they can talk about how they made it work and how they made it succeed. It may be that a principal or school board official is going to be most open to consider it if they can hear a success story from somebody else who's actually had the same job as them making these decisions, made the decision, happy they let them in, and have success to report. How do you find them? Well, for one thing, you could invite the principal or other school board official for them to try to track them down, but you can also talk to a community organization such as the Ontario Autism Coalition or Autism Ontario to see if they can connect you up with a family in a school where it has been successfully done. You might talk to the organization that trains those service dogs because they'd know where they've been successful and they might be able to make the connection. But by presenting them with ways to address the concerns they have, by getting the school board officials to fulfill their obligation to investigate solutions, you can help bring this to a successful conclusion in favor of your child. In other words, use this meeting as a chance to try to move things forward in a cooperative way. Now, at the end of the meeting, and it may be one meeting, you may have a couple, you may decide, hey, can we follow up in a couple of weeks? It's worthwhile following up if you can with an email saying, here's what we asked for, and here's what we understood you agreed to, or if they didn't agree to certain things, you weren't agreeable to X, and here's why. Then we get to the situation of what do you do if you don't get a successful agreement on what steps to take. Well, each school board will have some kind of hierarchy where you can take the issue up. And you may want to be consulting lawyers like the Arch Disability Law Center. You may want to consult all the folks on that support team I talked to you about at the start of this talk, other families who've dealt with this kind of issue at their school boards to see if they have some practical tips. But you can take the issue up the ladder or the hierarchy at the school board. And to that end, this is why it's good to have a letter where you've initially made the request, or an email where you've got documentation if they've turned you down of what their reasons were, and then you can go higher and try to advocate within the system. And throughout, you may encounter times where you make real strides forward and you're happy, and you may encounter times when you're incredibly frustrated because you're not getting where you want to be. One challenge facing anyone who does advocacy is it's really important to, no matter how frustrated you get, not vent that frustration at one of these meetings or in your emails. It doesn't help. It will not persuade people to do what you need to no matter how frustrating this may sound, to air your frustration. I'm not saying you can't be, that you should be, that you have to bottle up all your feelings no matter what. That's impossible. But as best you can, if you're trying to convince people further up the ladder to change things, make the case, present the points. Here's what we asked for. Here are people that we've had supporting us who've shown that this is a really good thing to do. The only reason they said we couldn't do it is X. Here's why that reason isn't really persuasive. And it's important for your school board to do this for us. Could you please help? That's going to be more likely to get change than anger, no matter how angry you feel. And believe me, I understand how frustrating all of this can be. whether it's working with the principal or the teacher at your school, or if you have to go up the hierarchy at the school board to advocate for your child because you weren't successful at that first stage, it's really important to remember that you've got to build good relationships, even with people that may be not agreeing with you or not supporting you. Because you've got to keep working with these people throughout your child's education. This isn't just like going to a gas station, you fill up, you leave, and that's the last time you go to that gas station and deal with that attendant. And that's another reason why not venting your anger is with them is really important. You want to maintain those relationships as best you can. It's also helpful to celebrate successes. If they've agreed with you on doing 3 things, but not agreed with you on doing another 2 things, it's important to thank them for the 3 things they've done and say, gee, I wish we could make progress on those other 2. And I'm also going to suggest to you that you will have allies going up the system. Some of the people you're talking to may be saying no to you. If they do, hopefully they won't, but if they say no to you, it may not be because they don't want to help you or because they don't think you're right. They may not have authority, or they may have run into roadblocks themselves. So it's helpful to say to folks, I know you haven't been able to agree to this, but can you give me some practical tips of who might be able to break this logjam, or some strategies or tips on how I might be able to succeed? And you'd be amazed at how many people will, if not in a formal meeting, in just a chat in their office or in a phone call, will say, well, you know, I've dealt with this before, and a parent faced the same thing you faced, and they were successful because here's who they went to, or here's what they did. That can be absolutely golden advice. And so even coming from people they may be the one who actually said no to you. And yet effective advocacy is seeing if they can turn around and they can help you too. Creating a series of emails as you go up the ladder, if you have to go up the hierarchy, is important, because if you want to start at the front line, and which is the teacher and the principal. If you're not successful, you want to be able to go the next line up and be able to say, here's what I asked for, and point to it, and here's what they declined, and here's what they said. And you've got either correspondence from them, or you've confirmed it by writing them saying, you've told me we can't do this because of the following, reasons. And then if you have to go up the next ladder, having the same, so that there's no debate over, there's no he said, she said over what actually you asked for, or what they actually told you, or why they told you they couldn't do it. You've got a clear series of emails or whatever, or letters that confirm that, because then somebody higher up can look those over and say, oh heck, there's something wrong here. And obviously, and I hope you never have to do this, but if you do have to talk to a lawyer, that exchange of emails can be extremely important in helping them assess what's gone on and what they can do about it. I want to take just a moment to tell you about a place that you might be able to get some assistance. Every school board in Ontario is required to have a Special Education Advisory Committee, or SEAC. And I am a member, at the time of recording this, I've been a member of the SEAC for the Toronto District School Board, and I was for 2 years its chair. This committee includes representatives from different disability organizations and community representatives in some cases. And their mandate is to advise the school board about areas where reforms or improvements are needed in that school board to accommodate the needs of students with special education needs. Now, they don't go and hear arguments and appeals from individual families about individual needs. That's not the place to go. And when I was chair of our SEAC, if somebody wrote and presented a problem, I had to explain to them that we are volunteers and we're not in a position to sort of go advocate for individual children. However, that doesn't mean they're useless. If you come to a SEAC meeting, you might find by talking informally to some of the members of the Special Education Advisory Committee during a break or before it starts, if it's a representative from an organization that relates to that pertains to your child's disability, or if you just contact them separately, they should be listed on the school board website. They might be able to give you some tips or help make some connections that may assist you. Or if they hear about recurring problems, they could be raising those at the table. And some families have used that kind of informal networking in a way that's been very helpful for them. I want to emphasize that one more thing before I turn to wrapping up that I mentioned earlier, and I want to now, in light of everything I've said, explain why it matters so much. It's important as you do this to be firm in ensuring that your child's needs are effectively met, but on the other hand, be flexible about how they are met. We could talk to the people in our circle of support and come up with some ideas, but it may be that in presenting those ideas, the school board will have ideas that we should consider. And I encourage you to be open to that, but also just as you should be ready to ask the school board to try out an idea you've shared with them, you should be open to try out an idea that they've shared with you if you think it's worth giving a try to. And at the end of trying it out, you may find out that, you know what, they had a good idea, that worked. Or you may be in a position to say, look, we tried it your way, we tried it, it didn't work. Now we got to go back to the table and figure out how to, a better way to proceed to meet my child's needs. It's important to remember this isn't just a once only thing where you negotiate an individual education plan at the start of the year and that's it. This is an ongoing process. You can ask for a resumed meeting at any time if you think it's appropriate, either to find out how things are going or to make suggestions about changes. And the school may reach out to you for that if you don't reach out to them. But it's always helpful after a few weeks or at the start of the next term to reach out either in person or through Zoom or whatever and ask to have a follow-up meeting, which serves a couple of functions. It can be both an opportunity to discuss what's been going on and how it's working and to make suggestions about things that might need to be changed, because their actual plans can change over the year and the IEP can be revised over the year. Now, one thing that I should just add here, if any of you who want to take part in any of this process, you're a parent, you're a guardian, you're a friend, you're helping out, if you have a disability, you should, of course, feel free to ask the school to ensure that your disability-related needs are accommodated in this entire process, whether it's meetings or correspondence or whatever. So, for example, if you need captioning or sign language interpretation, let the school board know. You want to let them know in advance. If you need documents in an accessible format, you may have vision loss or dyslexia, and if PDFs present a problem to you, as a blind person I will tell you they present a lot of problems to me, tell them the format you want them in. If you need other accommodations in the process, let them know. The sooner you let them know, the easier it is to arrange for it. But remember that we've been talking throughout about the right of students to have their disability-related needs accommodated, but of course there's also an important right of you, the parent, if you have a disability or other advocate for the child, to be accommodated. As well, it's open to you to consider including your child in some of these discussions and meetings, especially if they're old enough, and if you think it would help the child and the process. And indeed, it can be an effective way to help your child learn how to do this kind of advocacy, because anyone growing up with a disability needs to learn to advocate for themselves, and this can be an informative way for that learning process to go on. And of course, to have their voice heard in the process of developing plans for them. If they're age appropriate and otherwise, if it works, certainly consider giving that a go. So let me turn to concluding. I have, as I explained earlier on, carefully not been giving legal advice, and also not explained a lot of the details of the specific um, procedures and structures, certainly here in Ontario, for dealing with some of these needs. There's a process called the Identification and Placement Review Committee, or IPRC, that deals with some kids' needs, but not all kids' needs. You may never have to use it. And there are other avenues, formal avenues that I've not dived into. You want to learn about those. And to help you, there is an excellent series of short videos that are available through the Arch Disability Law Center's website, and I will post with this video a link to that video series. And I encourage you not only to reach out to Arch for advice if you need it, but to look at those videos to get that kind of information that I'm not covering here. I'm just trying to give you practical suggestions on how to move things forward for your child. If it is, you reach a point where you think you might need some legal assistance, do reach out, whether it's to Arch or to a lawyer you know, or to others who might be able to assist you. They might represent you if you need that representation. They might go over your options with you, or they might give you some practical tips on how to present your needs more effectively if you've been trying and aren't succeeding. I also want to conclude by inviting you to learn more about the activities of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Alliance. We are a volunteer, nonpartisan coalition that advocates for full inclusion and accessibility for people with disabilities throughout society, including in the education system. We don't advocate for individual cases. We can't do that because we're just volunteers. We don't have a staff, and we don't have the capacity to do that. So we can't give you advice on how to handle an individual case. But we do hear stories from people of what they're experiencing and use that to help fuel our advocacy efforts. How do you find out about us? If you go to our website, you can learn lots. It's at www.aodaalliance.org, aodaalliance.org. On our homepage, you'll see a link to sign up to get email updates from us. I strongly encourage you to do that. Click on that link, plug in your email address. We will send you updates about our campaigns on accessibility, and give you ideas of what you could do to help us in our advocacy across society. One of the important areas where we do advocacy is in the area of education for students with disabilities. You can learn all about that efforts by going to our education page. It's at aodaalliance.org/education. I'll repeat that. It's aodaalliance.org/education. We're very active on Twitter. Please follow us and retweet our tweets at AODA Alliance. That's at AODA Alliance, one word. And we have a Facebook page. You can like our posts and share them with your Facebook friends. That's facebook.com/accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Alliance. I want to wish you and your children your best of luck as you draw on these tips. If you have practical feedback that you want to share, you can use our email address, or which is aodafeedback@gmail.com, to let us know if this lecture was helpful for you, aodafeedback@gmail.com, or you can send us a tweet at AODA Alliance to give us your feedback. We very much welcome your feedback. Wishing you all the best of luck, and stay safe.